Are you ready?
Starting now?
Oh, now you just messed it up, you knob. God, you know that the shit that we go through for this, huh?
I know. Fuckers better appreciate it. When we started, we were just like, yeah, we're just going to do this, man. You know, shoot our wad into the wind and see what happens. What's the title of this podcast again?
I don't know. I don't know. Something with a penis, I guess.
Right.
Our fucking faces are everywhere now.
Right.
You know, but
You're welcome, ladies.
Right. Popular with the ladies. Right. Oh, I'm not even going to apologize because hopefully it sounds fucking hilarious.
Yeah, totally. This is fucking explicit now.
The explicit button. Let me use my finger.
La, 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 la.
It is time for another episode of Sober, Not Mature. And that episode starts now. All right, everyone. Welcome once again to another episode of Sober, Not Mature. And you know what, Mike? This is the beginning of season 3.
Ooh.
I know. And wait, are you ready for all the changes we're going to have tonight?
Yeah, I'm ready because there aren't going to be any.
Yeah, that's kind of the joke. Yes, all we did is make it easy. After basically every 6 months now, we're splitting it into a season. But no, we're not going to make any changes. If we make changes, they're usually whatever we feel like it. So
right.
But more importantly than all that garbage is we do have a guest tonight. We have Sonia, and Sonia, go ahead and introduce yourself real quick if you could.
Sure. Hi guys, I'm Sonia, and I'm the founder of EverBlume.
All right. Yeah, no, that's okay. And I've been, posting the promos and stuff all week. So, we've been posting your background and, obviously the company and all those sort of things. And obviously I know you're going to get into that, but, once again, if you mentioned that you listen to us here and there, we don't really have a structured type of thing. We got a minor, kind of plan on what we'd like to do, but, just basically I'll let Mike, you want to introduce her to what and I'm going to say it, quote unquote, format is for story.
Yeah, basically, just tell a little bit about yourself, where you came from, all that stuff. We don't like drunk logs. We know how to get fucked up. We know how to ruin our lives. We're interested in the solution.
Yeah,
definitely.
So
and obviously we want to hear about your company too. So, take whatever time you want at the beginning. Tell us about, where you came from up from then until now. And then, obviously we want to talk about your company and what you do. And, the whole point is getting to be able to promote you and what you're doing for the community now too. So, and everyone, you're going to hear the dogs are crazy tonight. So, and again, anyone who's listened to us for a little bit, there's usually 3 in the house, sometimes 4. Tonight is a night of 4. So, they were just going
it's a 4-dog night.
Yeah, wasn't that a band? No,
it was only 3.
No, I know. They added the 4th one that nobody knew, right? But yeah, right. So if anyone hears the dogs in the background, too fucking bad. Oh, Sonia, you said that I saw one of your posts that you said finally you get to swear or something like that. Was that right?
Yeah, I always have to censor myself, and I'm really excited.
Okay, so
that's one of the lovely things about podcasts. We can say whatever the fuck we want.
Yeah, and the thing of it is, from the start, we decided that we were going to say whatever the fuck we wanted to, and it's always listed as explicit. And other thing too, if you're not aware, we don't edit any of this. I cut off the dead air in the front. I cut off the dead air in the back. Everything that we say is ended up on the recording. We do it because we think it's a little bit more original, sincere, rather than cutting bits and pieces out. We want everyone to hear everything that we're spitting out of our heads. So
awesome.
Cool. All right.
Including
you're up.
The mistakes.
Yeah. And the mistakes are the most fun.
Exactly.
All right, Sonia, sorry about that. Go ahead. You can start.
Oh, just tell you a little bit about myself.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I'm Canadian. I was born in Toronto. I moved to Boston when I was 20 and I stayed. I was there for school. And my my parents are Indian immigrants, so I grew up around a lot of drinking. But women in my culture don't drink, so it's just the men. They binge drink on the weekends and like dramatic consequences like DUIs. They're always getting into fights and, you know, ending up in jail. But so when I started drinking, I thought that's the only standard I knew. And I was like, okay, if I'm not acting like them, then I'm okay. Right. So I think that's where I really got the idea of like these were some low functioning guys. Right. And so I thought, I'm high functioning. There's no way that's a problem. Looking okay physically, not getting arrested. So those were like, okay, like those were the markers of high function.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I grew up, I had a lot of insecurity. I was like an Indian kid living in a predominantly white neighborhood, white school. And my parents moved in the 60s to Canada. So they were really committed to assimilating. And so like, no matter how hard I tried, though, I just couldn't fit in. Like I was tiny. I had this braid down my back. I didn't understand sports. Like we didn't watch sports at home. And so I had no connection to any culture, right? So my parents we weren't practicing our culture. And then I didn't have any attachment to this sort of like white culture that I was like immersed in. So yeah, I think I just had that feeling of like otherness for a really long time. And then the first time I drank, I was probably 15, and it was like, oh, I get it. I'm okay now. It's like, thank God. It was like all the anxiety and the discomfort. It just like went away, and I didn't have to be like the little brown girl. And it just like, I imagine you guys felt this too. It just made my personality really fluid, right? It like let me be I became like a mimic. Like I could adapt to different groups, right? And I think that's sort of why we do it, some of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so I went to like a really formal Canadian university. And so there were like pre-dinner sherry receptions with academics and after-dinner port receptions and like champagne on the dais. And I was like, what's a dais? But as soon as I started drinking, I was like, I know what a dais is. And I was like comfortable talking to like academics. And so, yeah, it was just like a level of sophistication I was so uncomfortable in. But when I drank, it was like, I can do this. I think now they call it like code switching. I'm a prolific code switcher. And that's it. Yeah, that's how I moved like that through the world for a while. I was in school for a really long time. So it kind of like really changed the frequency of my drinking. So I was really a binge drinker until I started working full time and I started a business. And that's when I could drink at night, like every day when I got home. And so I was working on this business and it was like exploding. I was working like, 6-7 days a week, 12, 14, 16 hours a day. And I don't know, it was like 2010. It was like, oh, founders work really hard. Like Elon Musk is sleeping in his office. Like the Twitter guy eats one meal a day. And so I was like, great, I'm going to do this. Like really work hard, play hard. And so I don't know, it's just this like theme, right? Of like the work hard, play hard, like high functioning, like this kind of like, if things are looking good, things are good.
Right.
But I couldn't even go a day without drinking for like a decade. And I tried. I'd wake up every morning and be like, I'm not going to drink today. And I would drink. And the better the business did, the more I drank. And my mental health was spiraling. Yeah, it was, I think. And so that gets to like another thing, right? Like, I think I had like pretty severe imposter syndrome. And so I was just so scared all the time that it was going to go away. And so I had a friend, I remember I spiraled so hard after this. I had a friend who was like, wow, you're getting so big now that like, if you got sued, it would be like some class action shit. And I was like,
thanks.
How?
Yeah, really.
Class action? I was like, what is that? What do you even, what? And so I remember like not sleeping that night and like drinking and just being like, oh my God, like just like twitchy. And so, yeah, it went on like that until, I don't know, it's like a miracle. Like I was looking for some like executive level help and I called a headhunter and he was just like, have you ever considered selling? I have a group that's looking for exactly what you built. And I was like, I didn't even know I built something that I'd been so focused. I didn't even realize it was like, I had scaled it to a point where I could sell it. And so, yeah, I couldn't turn down the offer. It was like the greatest thing that ever happened, but I knew like I was like staring down the barrel of a gun. If I sold this business and didn't have that like identity and didn't have that like work hard, play hard, like what time of the day would I start drinking?
Right.
And so I was like, I got to do something. So it was a pretty long like due diligence period where they were like, you know, doing offers and looking at the company. And then finally we sold it. And then within a few months I got sober. And so I just like white knuckle, like did it. And like, just, I didn't really have like a pathway, but like, it turns out my pathway was sort of like do all the things you ever wanted to do. And so I did them. Like I went to school for coding and like photography and jewelry making. And I took like, writing classes, and I just did all the things. I got healthy, started like journaling, and things were amazing. I was like volunteering. Something really changed my life. I started volunteering with the incarcerated and formerly incarcerated, teaching entrepreneurship training through a nonprofit. And it was amazing because I had never really said out loud to anyone that I was an alcoholic or an addict. And I could share my story with them. And it was like, this is what I think this is what I'm supposed to be doing, right? Like, I think I'm supposed to be telling people that I was one bad night away from being where they are, right?
Right.
And so, yeah, it was great. I was, I wasn't hiding it anymore. And I was like, get involved in different like social impact organizations. And yeah, it was great. And then it all came crashing down. I can tell you about that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Do.
Yes,
I'm
please
on the
do.
edge of my seat.
I was going to say, yeah. And next time we're gonna find out what happened. So like the cliffhanger of an episode. No, tell us, yeah.
I didn't feel that pressure anymore to succeed. I was like financially, I was like, this is, you know, I'm settled, I'm happy, like I achieved what I wanted to achieve, and I'm sober, and just things just changed, right? Like I only wanted to focus on things I was really passionate about. And so, yeah, I was splitting my time with my husband between New York and like a rural place in Pennsylvania. And I was like creating art and like writing about my recovery, and my work was getting recognized. And then, it was good. And the one thing I did notice is that not everyone wants you to share about your recovery. And one of those people was my husband. And in his defense, I didn't ask him if it was okay that I was like making art and submitting it to galleries, and like the caption was about like a mental health struggle or about like my anxiety and, you know, essentially like how I drank to like to self-medicate. And so, and looking back, I mean, his lack of interest probably was a good indicator that he was not okay with it.
Right.
But I thought, you know, I'm happy. You know, things are great. And then after we sold our business, he just never got his footing. Like he was still so attached to that idea of like business and like that startup world. And he wanted to like make the next $1 billion company. And I had just like moved on. Like I just was like, I only want to do something if the external effect has some positive like social impact. And so like, I'm not going to, you know, I wasn't going to create the next like 4-wick candle company or something. Like it just, even if it was going to do really well, or like, it just wasn't, that wasn't even in my, like, it wasn't even in my thought process anymore. And so for a few weeks, he was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what to do. So I got him like a performance coach, and we talked, and he wasn't getting any better. And then he woke up, and I guess he figured out what the problem was, and it was me. And he woke up one day and he said, I'm leaving. And out of nowhere, after 18 years, because we were dealing with his like issue together. Like it wasn't an issue between us. It was an issue he was having. Sort of like my drinking was an issue I was having. Sure. It wasn't going to break up the marriage. And so, you know, he gave me a couple of reasons on his way out the door, and you know, those will live with me forever. And they were like, you're too introverted, you're too happy with your hobbies and your little nonprofit, and you're just too happy with too little, he said. Like that was his ultimate thing. And I thought, well, I can be miserable with little. I could be, and I was like, I'll do anything. Like, what am I, I'll be miserable with little, and like, we'll just try to get more. And I was like, no, he's leaving. And so, I mean, it didn't really occur to me that we had diverged, right, in terms of our values in that way. And it was like cute, right? My family and my friends were like, oh, you keep him grounded and connected to the real world. And, instead of like this startup like world where he fit in, like a white male dominated world, and, keep him from buying like obnoxious, like luxury goods. And so, yeah, it was just this cute thing that we balanced each other out. And yeah, wasn't that cute? And so that morning, I remember the next morning. So I don't know what I did that day. I have no clue. I think I cried all day. And then I woke up the next morning and I took my dogs for a walk on the Hudson. And I was like, what is the point of staying sober? Like I woke up with that feeling. I hadn't barely slept. That feeling that like, I only knew how to fix it with drugs and alcohol.
Right.
Like nothing had been that bad in the last 5 years, right? That I'd been sober. I didn't have to deal with anything like that. Right. So I thought, yeah, I don't know how to, this isn't like, I'm not going to journal this away. I'm not going to, I'm not going to like there's nothing that can get rid of this. I kept thinking there's nothing, I'm not going to deep breathe through this. I'm not going to work out and eat healthy through this. Like that's not going to fix this. And this is too deep. Right. And so New York's not a great place to question your sobriety, but I went back to my apartment that morning and I had heard about a meeting, non-12 step, like community meeting a friend of mine had told me about. And I logged on to their 8 a.m. meeting and it was great. It was like, oh, okay, here are my people, right? Like I'm feeling better. And there's like 220 people on the meeting. And that was fine, right? Like I wasn't going to say anything that day. And so it was just kind of passive. And then I kept going to this 8 a.m. meeting and I kept going and I kept going. And then as time went on, like getting to like the 5th, 6th, 7th week, I thought, okay, I'm going to need to talk about this. And so, you know what I mean? And I am not going to vent at 200 boxes. And so, because that's not what I needed to do. Like I was venting, I could vent to my journal. And so that's what it seemed like. People were coming on camera and like spewing out like a story and then like retreating back and turning their camera off. And then it was like, okay, next, right? Like there was a lineup of people who wanted to share. And so, and then even some people would be like, they would get on, they'd be like, I've been stressed about this all morning. He's like, I just want to go. I just want to get this over with. And I was like, what the hell does that mean? Like, how is that helpful? Like, what do you mean you want to get your share over with? Like, that's not, I remember it hit me really strangely. And I thought, I don't think that's what this is supposed to be. I'm not sure, but I don't think so. And I just was like, I don't know. I need something different. And I looked around and there wasn't anything. There wasn't a place where it was like a small group where I could just share and get feedback. I think what I was really struggling with is I needed feedback. I needed advice. I needed someone to tell me I was going to be okay. And I wasn't getting that. And so, I mean, I'm super lucky. I have 2 sister-in-laws who are both married and divorced from my brother. And he was an alcoholic. So they understood sort of like the nuances of like they didn't fully understand that getting through this sober was that big a deal. I think, I don't think like they understood that what was happening was a big deal, but I don't think they saw it as necessarily as part of like my sober journey. And so, yeah, I had a support system. I live in a hamlet in Pennsylvania and there's only 100 people. And like, they all just were like around and like invited me for dinner. And I have 2 teenage nieces and they were like, this is amazing. You're single. It's going to be amazing. And so I had people, something was missing. And I think it was, just that idea that you guys don't understand, like me getting through this without drinking is not guaranteed.
Right.
Like,
Well,
I think,
you know, no matter how much people understand and whatever, nothing. The big book talks about, you know, one alcoholic talking to another. We can understand what it's like. Normies can love us and try and everything, but it takes another alcoholic to truly understand what we're going through.
yes,
Yeah.
it's
Right.
like I could talk to like an 18-year-old guy from like Minnesota who has a meth problem, and we get it. Like,
Yep.
that we get it. Or I could talk to like another 44-year-old Indian who lives in a hamlet in Pennsylvania, and they're not an alcoholic and they don't get it, right?
Right.
And so, and yeah, you know, it really opened my eyes to that. Like, this isn't a demographic issue. This is a,
Right.
yeah, no, you're so
I
right.
mean, we say that all the time. I mean, we've had people on who will talk about, well, I'm female, so I'm different. You know, I'm an alcoholic female. So now an alcoholic and an addict is a certain thing, and it doesn't matter what color, gender, or whatever age you are. That's a certain core thing that you can't get from anybody else.
Yes, it's so
Yeah, and
true.
you had mentioned too that you know, you can't, you know, like eat healthy to make it go away, or exercise, or journal.
Mhm.
And I mean, all those things. And I know a lot of people that do a lot of positive things like that. Like Mike and I always talk about routines. We, you know, we each do a certain number of readings in the morning. We do prayers and we do certain things. But and there was time during and both of us have been sober coming up on 13 years, and the beginning time, it was a lot of meetings, and it was lead meetings. So people just telling stories, kind of like what you're talking about, just in person. So we didn't get that feedback necessarily, but then there'd be a big book meeting or a discussion meeting, and we had guys to talk to and our sponsors, you know, and I know Mike and I talked about that plenty of times. There's certain times it's like, man, I don't feel like going to a meeting. I'm just going to sit down and read a book, you know, maybe it's the big book, maybe it's recovery stuff, but there's something about getting together with another addict, alcoholic, another person that's you, regardless of who they are, and talking about it. And, you know, seriously, and Mike mentioned it, I talked about it, we both talked about it. We started this so we could get together and talk to each other on a weekly basis. That was the point of us doing this podcast. And that was a year ago, you know, and we've known each other for a long time, but both of us were missing something. So this was that at that time, and I think still is. It is still. It definitely is.
Yeah.
You know, it's a chance for us to get on here and shoot the shit, and we get to meet new people too. But everything you said, just I was kind of nodding my head. I'm like, yeah, it's just you got to get with your people. You said that too.
Yeah. I mean, do you still go to meetings regularly? Like, you have a sober community?
Definitely sober community. Myself, I go to one meeting a week. It's my home group. And, you know, because I mean, meetings are great in the beginning. But meetings don't keep you sober. Working the program keeps you sober. I mean, there was a point in my life where I was going to meetings all the time, and I was going drunk and high. And I mean, I shot up in the bathroom meeting one time. You know, a meeting's not going to keep me sober. I have the community now. The only reason I continue to go to my home group is I help run it. I'm a part of that meeting, and I keep the doors open. I'm one of the people that keeps the doors open, and that's what is important to me now in my sobriety. Going to a meeting on a Wednesday just because I don't need to go to a meeting. You know, my program works now. I work my program on a daily basis, and a meeting is just, for me, a chance to be of service. That's all it is for me at this point. You know, I don't need, and I've got plenty of people. I've got that support system. I've got tons of people in AA that I can call and talk to and do that. You know, I got Bill. So yeah, you know, but so yes, I am still plugged in. I'm still active in the sober house that we went through. But yeah, you know, meetings are great, and they're very important in the beginning to build that foundation. But I think you get to a point where, you know, I mean, I didn't get sober to live my life in a church basement. I got way too much other stuff going on, and I'm grateful for that because I'm sober.
Well, and you know, when the pandemic started, before that, and I was in Cleveland, that's where I got sober, and then moved to Wisconsin. I was there I went to a lot of meetings in the beginning, a lot of meetings in Madison, and it scaled down over the years, but I was the secretary of a meeting in Wisconsin for probably 5 years before the pandemic, and I went to that meeting every week anyhow. But once the pandemic started, did the Zoom meetings, and once those dried up, is when I started listening to sober podcasts and I actually got on Instagram to meet and connect with more sober people, and then within a month from there is when Mike and I started this. So the only time I go to in-person meetings anymore is when I'm back in Cleveland. And because again, you mentioned the community, we got such a strong, solid group of people in Cleveland. And once again, I mean, Mike and I are certainly the closest. He's the closest to me, and I think vice versa, as far as our group, but there's 25 people off the top of my head that I could call if I needed something, or needed to talk, so we have that. And plus it's weird, but Instagram does keep me plugged into this podcast, keeps both of us really plugged in. But the other thing too, is that we do all the things we were taught, all the work that we were told to do and showed how to do. We don't miss a beat ever. Our days are the same. Our structure and our routine is the same. And that is, I could take the time, I could go sit in a meeting like Mike says, or said, but I can work my life and work my day. If I have a problem, I know where to go though. If I ever get weird and I can't get a hold of somebody, I'm going to look up a meeting and I'm going to go. I don't ever want to get away from knowing that that's what I need to do if I feel that way,
Right. I mean, that's what this made me realize. Like, I think one of the reasons we drink too is like, I don't want to lean on people. I'm not comfortable. It makes me feel like I'm taking too much from them. And so, there's a point I was like, I felt like I was leaning so much on my sister-in-laws, but it's like, this is what it's about. And they'd gone through things and I had been there for them. And they said that they're like, you were there for us. Why won't you let us be there for you? And I was like, this is what it is. Right. And I can't even tell you like those were the only moments I remember in the first couple of months after he left that I was like laughing about something and like happy. And those moments of just like I'd be crying 1 second and then they would say something really funny and I'd be like laughing. But yeah, I think everyone needs that, right? Like everyone needs that ability to say like, I need help right now. And I may not need help like in a year. I kind of look at it like a piggy bank. Like what I should have been doing for 5 years was creating, some sort of community for myself, a sober community where I was giving back, right? Like I was doing well. I should have been giving back. I should have been making deposits into this piggy bank. I should have been like, hey, this works really well. This works really well. I journaled about this. And, and then when shit hit the fan, I could make withdrawals from that piggy bank. Right. And so that's what I'm sort of like trying to create now is, just because you're doing well, like that's not a reason to, like that doesn't mean you don't have to have a community. Right. Like you still need it because you never know.
Right. Well, I mean, the old cliche, you got to give it away to keep it.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and there's always going to be something in the, Mike and I mean, how many times have you probably lost count, how many times I've called you, Mike, and I'm like, I can't, this happened. You think like you got all your shit together. And for the most part, based on the things that I do, and again, I'm not doing all this on my own. It's things that, I've got a power greater than myself and people to help me and all those sort of things. But I'm on a path that people have given me to walk down. But then something out of the blue just comes up and smacks me in the head. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know how to deal with this, and I've never dealt with this sober, and I've never had this happen. And then this will happen, whether it's a job thing, a relationship thing, a financial thing. Our mom died in October, and that's the second death that I've gone through, major death like that, sober. Our stepdad died, but I mean, still, I mean, we knew it was coming. She was ill and all those sort of things. And Mike called her mom. It's our mom, and we're not brothers, but we are, so it's the two of us in walking through that stuff. And we're still, walking through some of the cleanup from it. But how do you deal? And I know how we dealt with it. We talked about it. We talked about it on an episode. We just did exactly what we were told from the
Mm-hmm.
beginning. We didn't change. We leaned on everything we did. We reached out when we needed people. We had family around, and I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, the next day. There's going to be some shit that's going to fuck me up again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But when it does, here's the thing. Here's the cool part is I know for a fact that I could deal with it as long as I keep my head straight and I keep my head forward and I reach out, like you said, reach out to these people that I've developed this community with and this strength from all these years,
Absolutely. And one of the great things is we can feel like shit and be okay with it. I mean, getting loaded was trying not to feel pain, not, make yourself as comfortable as possible all the time. And, thanks to this program, I've learned that it's okay to be uncomfortable. It's okay to feel pain. It's fine. It's going to pass. I'm going to walk through it. It's not going to last forever. It's not going to cripple me and ruin my life. I'll feel like shit for a couple hours and then I'll talk to somebody and they'll make me laugh and I'll feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do a lot of like playing the tape forward. I do a lot of that.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I did it during this and it helped. I mean, I can't, I was like, how could this get any worse? I remember there was like a point where I found out that, obviously he was having relations with someone else. And then I found out who that person was. And the only way that could have been worse is if I drunk dialed somebody after finding that out.
Right.
I was like, I would have done something stupid. And I'm so grateful.
Well, and the other thing that we were taught is bad moments versus bad days. And that's something we were taught really early on. And it completely, and I'm joking, it completely changed my entire perspective on life and shitty things. Is that, whatever it is, it's a moment. It could be 100 bad moments in a string in a day, but there is nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, that can ruin my entire day. There's going to be some positive to it. I just need to find it, so breaking it down to this is a bunch of fucked up moments today, but what about this and this? It's like, okay, there's no bad days. I don't believe in them. And first time we heard that, it was at a meeting and we were like, God, what do we figure, Mike? 30 days, 60 days sober when we
Something
heard
like that, right?
Yeah, then some fucking dudes up there going, I don't have bad days anymore. We're like, fuck you. And he's like, but then he explained himself. He goes, I had bad moments and explained it that way. And it's like, oh, but I'll tell you what, these little things, these little nuggets of information that all these people gave us, like Mike just said a minute ago, giving it away to keep it. This dude was telling us this stuff to help him, not us. He was doing it to help himself. He goes, I got to give this stuff away. I gotta give all these little nuggets of information away. And that's, almost 13 years ago. And not only did I not forget it, we didn't forget it. It's a huge part of our lives,
Right. Yeah. I will find bad moments all through the day, but there were good moments too. And I got to make sure that I'm looking for those because it's not my nature. My nature is to focus on the negative.
Yeah.
And I had to change that. I had to start working that muscle to look for the good things. And I'm a little bit better at it now because I'm working that muscle and that muscle is stronger. So I can see good things easier than I could 13 years ago. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also helpful. I've always sort of had like a sense of humor about stuff. And so a lot of the negative stuff, I will I will literally still like walk around my house and be like, oh my fucking God, where did my husband go? Like, what the fuck? And I'll say it to like the dogs. I'll be like, where the fuck did your dad go? Like, and it's like, or days where I'm like, is this really my life? Like something ridiculous will happen. Like, I don't know, a mirror will fall off the wall and smash. And I'm like, really? Like, really though? Haven't I been through enough? Like, but I think if you can find some humor in it and realize, no, this isn't all just happening to me. Right.
Right. Well, yeah, the mirror didn't fall on you. It just fell in the house. It didn't slice your neck open. It could have been worse.
Could have been worse. And even honestly, like even my situation now, like I really somehow managed to be like, I am so lucky. I have like financial freedom. I don't, how many women in my situation would be like, how am I going to like pay the rent? Right. Like I have that. I have family that's like super supportive. It's not my nuclear family, but I have people, right? And so
Right.
yeah, I think it's so important is to like find the like little pieces of like of positive. But yeah, I remember doing that. I like could do like one thing a day, and I like when I got back to Pennsylvania, and I fixed my grill. And it was like something he refused to do it. He refused to put this, like, there was like a new hose that had to go from like the gas to like the burner or something. And I was like, I'm going to do this today. And that's all I'm going to do. And then I'm going to cry for the rest of the day. But I got up, I got out there, put that hose on the grill. It worked. I felt really good. And then I got back into bed and like watched Ozark for like 10 hours.
That sounds like a pretty damn good day. I love Ozark. I like fix the grill so I can make a steak later, and I'm gonna watch me some Ozark.
I'm vegetarian.
Oh well, okay. So cook it. You know what? Grilled vegetables, and our sister Kathy, her ex-husband used to make years ago. Used to make these just this big thing. You pull out tinfoil and just whatever vegetables they had in the house. You just cut them all up, season them up, and grill them like that. Ridiculously good. Now, yes, he would make some meat along with it, but these grilled vegetables, they were awesome.
I'm probably the only vegetarian that grills all the time.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
why not, right?
Yeah, I just love it. It's great.
Yeah. Just because you're vegetarian, and it's not like they don't make stuff that you can throw on a grill, right? No?
It's true.
Don't know. I don't eat vegetables and I don't grill, so there you go.
So Sonia, I think that, and I'm just looking at time here real quick. I think you've kind of got your backstory out to a point. It sounded like you were going to lead into, what you're doing now and building with your business. Am I right on that?
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't we just take our just quick break now, just be a 2-minute break, and then we'll get back and start to talk about what you're doing now and what you're building. Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Mike?
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break here. Listen to this wonderful message, and we'll be back in 2 and 2.
Hey everyone, it's your friends at Sober Not Mature.
Hi there.
And, yes, it's both of your friends this time. Hi Mike, how are you?
I'm well. How are you, Bill?
I am doing well, but we do have a purpose. We actually usually talk about our one website, but we actually have 2 websites now. So two websites in one. All right, so everyone knows we still have the podcast website that is www.SoberNotMature.com. And we just launched the store website, so we also have that. Do you know what the website address is on that one, Mike?
Of course I don't.
It's pretty easy, Mike. It's www.SoberNotMatureShop.com. But from the podcast website, you can still hit the store link and get into the web store, or you can access it from our Instagram page through the highlights. We've been posting quite a bit about it, and we'll continue to do that. But do you know what's on the second website, Mike?
Well, there's a store. There are products that you can purchase for you and your loved ones.
Well, Mike, do we still have merchandise?
We have merchandise. Well, we got T-shirts and coffee mugs and all kinds of crap.
And one of the coolest parts, we also do have all the recovery books from Hazelden, which is kind of a big deal.
That is a big deal.
Yeah, at least for us. So all the books that we read, God Grant Me 24 Hours, the Big Book, the 12 and 12, all of those books are available for sale on our website. And again, that store website is www.sober.
Trying to help, man.
I know you are. You're not helping, though. Okay, now I got to say www.SoberNotMatureShop.com. .com. Visit that today, or visit the podcast website, which is, again, the podcast website. So
www.SoberNotMature.com.
Did you just say sober but not mature?
Yeah, sure. Write that down.
Yeah, like fucking mush mouth or something. All right, everyone. You've suffered enough with this, and we'll get back to what we were talking about previously. So visit the websites, though. All right. Welcome back, everyone. After that, what did you say? Wonderful message? I don't even remember what you said.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's funny that it's so half the time that I listen to all of our episodes. Mike listens to some, but I listen to all of them. And it's funny. 9 times out of 10, and let's say just 10 out of 10 times, there's going to be either quite a few points in the episode or at least a small portion. I'm like, I don't even remember saying that, or I don't remember when Sonia said that. I don't remember when Mike talked about that. I'm sitting right.
Well, you
here.
just asked me what I said, and I have no idea, and I just said it 2 fucking seconds ago.
I know, and I don't know what you said either. So I'll listen back.
Nice.
I'm like, oh yeah,
well, figure it out.
The podcast I did a couple of months or weeks ago just came out, and I sent it to my sister-in-law, and she's like, you're so honest, and you're about your story, and I'm like, I know, but can you imagine if I brought up like my childhood trauma? And she's like, you did. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, you literally said the word childhood trauma. I was like, oh my God, I need to listen to that. I was like, when did I say that? And now look, I've done it again. I did it again.
There it is.
Right. Well, and the thing of it is that I don't know. I think that's part of at least in my opinion. I know it sounds weird, but it's kind of part of a good conversation because we sit there, we talk about so many different things. It's not like if usually I can remember every sentence of a really bad conversation because it's killing me with every word. But with these, it's just like, oh, that was fun. Let's go on to the next one. I love that part. Let's go on to the next one. But anyhow, so you were talking about obviously where you got to the point where obviously you're sober now, and just a couple of quick questions I had, maybe even I don't questions or points, but so first of all, when you got sober, you literally had the idea, you were cognizant enough to say, I've got a problem, I need to take care of that, and you quit.
Oh yeah, I knew I had a problem for a while.
Yeah, but then you quit.
We usually do.
Yeah.
Which is that's I had to ask you that question because Mike and I talked openly about that. Both of us had our issues for years and years, and had cognizant moments maybe, but never said kind of like I'll fix it tomorrow, that sort of thing.
Yeah, but I think that the impetus though was selling the business. If that hadn't happened, I don't know. Like if I hadn't had like a major like situational change, like I don't know if I would have. If I was still working really hard and playing really hard, I don't know. Like I probably would have continued doing that. Like if I was still working that many hours, I probably would.
Well, one way or the other, I think that's wonderful, and I think that's awesome. And then, so the only thing that we haven't talked about yet, and if you want to share it, I don't know, we don't know how long you've been sober. Do you want to share when your sobriety date is, or how long you've been sober?
Yeah, my sobriety date is April 8th, 2017.
Okay, perfect. Oh, so, April. Hey, ours. Mine's April 18th.
To get sober.
Yeah, apparently. Mine's April 18th. Mike is April 22nd. Who did we talk to? Ashley was April, wasn't she?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yes, it's just Ashley we had from Sober Girl podcast. We got together and did a collaborative episode a few weeks ago or whatever it was. So yeah, I think she's April too. So awesome. Yeah, so that's that's cool. So you're coming up on 6 years then.
Yeah.
Nice. Congratulations.
Yeah, I think I was like coming up on. I was a little over 5 when this all happened. Yeah.
Okay. And I knew you had said that. I just didn't know. I didn't know even that was going to be my next question. So you just answered that, but obviously with the dates. But so it's been about a year since that falling apart thing happened. Yeah,
it's been about a year, and then probably so that we're talking like late winter, early spring, and so probably until the summer I was like barely functioning. Like I just could not believe this was happening, and so I was going back and forth to Toronto to see my family, and like thought, okay, I need to like start living my life. So came back I live in the middle of the woods, and I was like, oh, this is a little isolating. I don't know. So I was like, I need to take a trip. I need to do something. And so my sister-in-law was like, you need to take a trip. Like you need like an eat, pray, love. You need to do something because it's happening. Like you need to like just accept that it's happening and like start to figure out what your life is going to be like. And so I went to Costa Rica. And so I got there. I was like miserable getting like, you know what I mean? Like just like on the flight, like what the fuck? Like, am I doing? Where is my husband? Like I hadn't been on a trip by myself in almost 20 years. And so I got there, and the first night was just crazy. Like, just could not believe I was there eating dinner by myself. And that, I think I slept like 12 hours and I hadn't been sleeping for months. And so it was really great. I woke up and I felt like something had shifted a little bit, like something had shifted. And I was in like sort of rainforest area. And I remember waking up and looking out and thinking, there is life out there. Like, this is gonna happen. And so, yeah, a couple of days into the trip, I just started thinking, like, what did you need? Like, what was it? What could have gotten us here faster? Or what do you even still need? And I thought, I need people who don't drink. I need a group of people. They don't have to be demographically similar, but I need a group of people who understand how difficult it is to have a major life transition and stay sober through it. And they can be sober for like 2 weeks, 20 weeks, 20 years, but I need that sort of dynamic. And so I started mapping it out on this trip, and I basically drew a big circle and like wrote like sober in the middle, right? Like, if that's like sort of the commonality. And I just like drew out these spokes, and I thought, what are the different like shitty things that have happened to you that would have been nice to have a group of people that understood it? And I thought, well, I've struggled with self-esteem and like imposter syndrome and self-confidence. So that could be a group. I definitely struggled with job burnout. That could be a group. And now I'm struggling with a relationship. And so, well, breakup of a relationship, life transition. So that could be a group. And just kept going and going. And I thought, this is interesting. Like, there might be something here. And so I'd been angel investing a little bit leading up to that. So the only thing I knew how to do is make a pitch deck. And so I thought, let me just make a pitch deck to organize my thoughts. Like, what are you really thinking? Like, are you thinking of a business? Are you thinking of like a group, in Pennsylvania? And so I started making the pitch deck, and I thought, okay. And I was like, it was, excruciating. I did like one slide a day. And then finally like finished the pitch deck and like showed it to a couple of like friends, and they're like, this is really something. And so I thought, I hadn't started and run and built a business on my own. I'd only ever done it with my husband. And so I think there was this level of like wondering if I could do it by myself. Like, if was he the special sauce, or was I okay on my own? And so I did something that I know he would have burned him. And I joined a business accelerator in New York. And I know that he would have been like, why do you need to do that? And so, and it was amazing. So it's like, you get a lot of support for developing your idea. And so the idea really went from when I entered the accelerator, we literally went from an idea to launching. And so the best part was, part of the process of the accelerator is you have to interview as many potential customers as possible, clients. And so I interviewed like hundreds of alcoholics that were in recovery, and it was amazing. And I was interviewing people, and it was interesting. Even people in AA, I was like, well, what would your ideal meeting be? Like, if you could pick a meeting. And this guy was like, you know what? My ideal meeting happened during COVID. It was like 8 to 10 of us. We sat outside in some guy's backyard and just talked about what was going on in our lives. Mm-hmm. And I thought, okay. And then I, interviewed different people that thought like, didn't resonate with AA for one reason or another. A couple of people thinking, they wanted feedback too. Like, they wanted the crosstalk. And so I thought, okay, maybe I have something here. And so, yeah, I just kept going and finally realized, okay, I definitely have something here. I started taking signups, probably like around Thanksgiving, just like gauge interest. And if this existed, would you sign up type thing? And got like hundreds of signups. And I thought, wow. So I went home for Christmas and started thinking, okay, like, let's launch this, like when I get back. And so I did. And yeah, it's been amazing. Like, it's just been, I don't even know what to say. Like, I get emotional even like thinking about it. I got an email today from someone. My favorite meeting is like before like the 0 to 90 days meeting. Mm-hmm. And so, cause I think that's a hell all of its own. It deserves its own meeting. And so that one is just, it's like watching a miracle. Like, it is so emotional to watch. And I'm going to read this to you. I got this email today. I want to take time to thank you from the bottom of my heart for creating this group. Last night, I felt so heard and understood, and today woke up feeling empowered to make this change in my life. What?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Like I'm done. Like I can die happy now. Like I thought that, like, oh my God. Like I never made this type of impact running like a much larger, more successful business. Like there's not once, right, did I feel what I felt like today. Or a couple of weeks ago, someone said they prayed for the meeting. They prayed that they would find a group that understood them. And then she actually came back the next week and said, I was going to drink tonight if we didn't have this meeting.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, like, this is it. Like this, okay, we have it. Like, and then, yeah, lately I've just been like refining, my format. I want to give, I understand like different groups where they're like, they have a curriculum and then they have like book clubs and they have like different forums. But I just want to do like the best meeting humanly possible. Like that's the only goal, is I want to give them like everything I can in these meetings. And so I think it's working. And so, yeah, I'm vulnerable and I want people to just talk until like their throat hurts. Like, get it, like save your life, And so,
right.
Yeah.
Open up, realize you're not alone, and realize that you don't have the answers. And once you get there, it's all open.
And I also think too, because the groups are small, I feel like, I don't want to use the word control, but like I don't have to give them rules. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
right.
Where I feel like a lot of these other, like non 12 step, but there's like, here are the 30 rules before we start this meeting. And I don't like, I'm like, you know what, guys, like, we're not going to do any rules. We're not even going to do like the Zoom hand, but if it descends into chaos, I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like,
sure.
But I kind of like, I feel like that way, a lot of times they'll say, if you've been using today, don't use your voice.
Right.
And I don't know. Like I'm pretty sure someone was using and I let them use their voice. And I think it was like, but I'm there, right? Like if there's a problem, I can cut them off, but this person needs to get something out. They need to get something out. Right. And so, yeah, I like the kind of small group, model. I think it's working.
So
definitely.
So how many people do you have in each group? I mean, let's kind of, I don't know if you want to just talk about that. I mean, or let's say, how many different groups do you have? What's the average group size? Maybe just a little bit more about that.
Yeah, the average group size is about 10. Usually it's like between 8 and 10. I would go up to 12, I think, because people do show up not ready to talk, right? My vision was that everyone would talk at each meeting, but that's not realistic. And people have bad days and they're not, interested in talking. And so, yeah, I mean, we have first 90 days. We have a group for people struggling with self-esteem. I'm going to start a healthcare providers group because I was a healthcare provider. And so I think there's like specific challenges, especially around privacy with healthcare providers, like where they don't want to seek treatment because they don't want to get in trouble with like, oh, were you drinking at work? Or, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's a tough,
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's lots of doctors and nurses that, they've got, pretty good access to drugs. So it's easy for them. Yeah. Right.
And they have access to trauma, right? Like they are dealing with like especially the last few years, I think they have seen stuff that we can't even imagine. So yeah, so there's that life transition. I am a member of the life transition group. I'm the founder. I'm the president and the client. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I'm even in a client hair club for men. That's what it was. God, where did I come up with that?
Yeah.
Cy Sperling.
Yeah. I forgot the dude's name. Yeah. I'm also a client.
But yeah, so it's been going great. And my like hope is that the bigger we get, like it's one of those things where the bigger it is, I actually think the better it is because we can get more niche with the meetings. And so when I was interviewing people, I met like multiple sober witches, like multiple. And like a Satan worshiper guy that was going to AA meetings. Right. And so I was thinking like, there's a group for you. Like, I really thought, like, you know what? You deserve a group too. And so I really think that the more people we get and the more we can find out about people and like, what are you really struggling with? What type of people do you want to be around? Do you not like, is it worth it for someone who is super religious or super, believes in God and like a specific God? Is it worth it for them to be in a group with 15 atheists? Right. Or 10 atheists. And so I think I'm just going to figure that out over time. I think that, that's why I hope that we get bigger and bigger so that we can kind of give people a more unique kind of experience, like a more curated experience.
Sure.
Well, and the thing with it is too, is that when you mentioned the smaller group sort of thing, is there was the group I went to, the club I went to in Mequon, and Mike, you were there at that club, the one meeting,
Right.
So we would do, it'd be the, whatever meeting it was always a topic or a reading, or somebody would do, I don't want to say a lead, but a discussion on something. And then you'd break up into groups. And usually it was, depending on the size of the little rooms around, it might be, 4 or 5 people in a room, or it could be up to 10. There was a bigger room, like in the basement, where they used to have like a first step meeting, the opportunity at least to have a first step meeting. But, quite honestly, it was kind of cool because that's the first time that I'd ever been in, they were AA, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's that first time I'd ever been to a meeting like that where they broke up into groups, which I thought was kind of cool because it broke it down. And then, somebody had something to say, or if you can go, I'm going to go listen to this guy talk. And I'm going to go sit over here in this group.
Yeah.
I think it was nice. And basically that's kind of what you're doing is you're giving people, 7 different doors. Which door do you want to go in today? There's going to be people that, everyone's, has the same overall, sobriety type of thing going on, but then you get to slice it up into little pieces and figure out this piece fits better for that person. I mean, at least that's what it sounds like, right? That you're doing?
Yeah. And it's not a pathway, right? It's not a pathway to recovery. So you can be in AA and still want to do a couple of EverBlume meetings, right?
Well, sure.
So it's not like, it's not excluding like an actual, like working a program too. And so, I think what it gives you is it just gives you sort of a smaller group of people that are really going through the same thing. And so I kind of like, I would even encourage people to have like, a pathway, or even like, there's like medical pathways now. And so nothing is really excluded from what I think, but I agree with you. I think when you kind of like slice it down, and also, I mean, if you take someone like, I'm really introverted normally, and anything more than 10 people, I don't know if I'm going to be comfortable. To me, it feels like a speech, right? Like if I had to say something more than that. And so I think that there's something about like, it may not be for everyone. Like maybe there are people that want to vent in front of like, 200 people on a Zoom screen, and that gives them what they need. But it's for like those people that need that kind of like deeper connection and conversation.
Mm-hmm. Well, and there was, and Mike, how many times did we hear a lot of the old timers talk about that they were, and again, air quotes, accused of hiding out in meetings for, months or years, right? So,
Right.
And we heard that quite a bit. That I'm sure there's a lot of people that, would want to just sit and not talk, whether it's a big group or small group. They just want to, I heard in plenty of meetings that I've been to over the years that, I'm just going to sit and listen, or I'm just going to sit. I want to take on other people's advice, or, I want to hear what other people have to say. I'm going to, whatever they want to say, they want to be a sponge that day, but I agree. I mean, a smaller group like that, it gives people more opportunity if they want it, to talk and open up and actually sit there and speak about, but if nothing else, listen to exactly what they're going through. So I get it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a difference between like active recovery and a passive recovery to me. Like, I don't think you always need that, but I think that, like you're saying, you listen to a podcast, right? So it's kind of like that when I was going to these huge meetings. It was kind of similar to listening to people tell their stories on a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. A small group, and you can get down to your specific problem of the day, of the minute, of the moment. Right. Everything changes. I understand that. Right. I mean, my biggest problem is I'm a selfish, self-centered asshole who medicated himself with drugs and alcohol. And I don't. So now I'm just a selfish, self-centered asshole who doesn't get all fucked up. But I'm still an asshole, but less. I have found that I've been taught that if I do things for other people, and I still don't know how this works, but if I do things for other people, my life gets better. I don't fucking understand it, but it seems to work.
We used to be told that all the time. The sponsor that Mike and I shared a sponsor for about a year. Still my sponsor, but I mean again. But he used to call it, and actually people in his group and his sponsor used to call it AA math. You know, you just keep giving and giving and giving you to get more in return, and nothing adds up. You know, and it's cool. Yeah. But I mean, so everything that you're doing right now, the same as that guy telling us about, you know, bad moments versus bad days. What you're doing now, I mean, you're helping yourself. Clearly, you just said, you know, you're also a client.
Yeah.
in the one meeting, but all those different things you're doing, you're helping yourself. But I mean, you're trying to help other people, but helping yourself along the way. Which Mike said that I don't know how many times when it comes to this podcast, you know. Some of the feedback that we get, we don't get a ton of messages, we don't get a ton of emails, but I'll tell you, the ones that we do, they're really fucking cool, because the people that I would rather have, I'm a quality versus quantity person anyhow. I'd rather have a very short amount of time with those that I care about and love than, you know, see them every day of the week and have it be just whatever. So that's kind of like our followers and our listeners and our community of people. When somebody reaches out, they usually dig deep into their heart, and it's just like, oh my God,
holy shit, we've done something.
I know. And you know what, if you've listened to us, I mean, I'm not saying that we're serious about our recovery, but we're not on here every single week going, and we joke about it every once in a while. Cause if you've been on another podcast, and I laugh about it because it's usually the women, and I commend them for doing it, being so freaking positive. You know, we're rooting for you, and come on, and we love every one of you. And I'm just, half the time, Mike and I are like, fuck this person, this thing happened to me, all these different things. I mean, we're not talking down on people. We would help anyone. But I mean, the difference in that, and I'm like, how is that? How are we helping anyone? So that's why it means so much, because sometimes you're like, really?
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it's cool.
Yeah, I think that too. Like yesterday we had, and I think it's interesting, you get into more interesting conversations. We had a conversation about, are there, like, actually just kind of what Mike was saying, like, are there two versions of you, right? Like, is there the drunk version and the sober version? Or is it just, are you fundamentally one person, and you know, that you have you're able to express yourself differently in different states. But one, it's like, it's hard to get into a conversation like that in a bigger group. I mean, that's a pretty deep one. And and two, and it made me think too. I was like, was I a different person? I don't know. You know, it's like an interesting thought. But yeah, I really like that about having that kind of like format.
Yeah. And so, where did you, I was going to say, where did you find all these folks? I guess that was my first question. So let me start there. So you said you interviewed all these individuals to begin with, and then got a bunch of signups. Where did you go to begin with to just reach out to all these folks that you thought would be great to interview?
Mostly social media. So I would find people that were posting about sobriety a lot, and I would message them and say, hey, I'm thinking about starting, and I wouldn't go into too much detail because I don't want to like bias them. Like, I'm thinking about starting some sort of like recovery meeting a little bit different than what's out there. And then, I mean, you know, like recovery people are like, yeah, I'll help you. And so like, I phrased it like, can you help me figure out if this is something, if it's a need in the community? And so, yeah, people were great. And yeah, they were just like open and willing to share everything about, you know, about what they were looking for. And like, it was interesting.
And that's, the thing of it is that, I mean, social media, quite honestly, depending on how you use it, I think it can be a galactic waste of time. I used to waste a ton of time on Facebook, and I spend a lot of time on Instagram now, but I do have a purpose. I mean, we're trying to do a lot of different things, but there are still times when I'm like, I'm like, I gotta get off of here for a minute, But the other thing though is that it blew my mind how many sober people and like good solid people. And I mean, Mike, how many complaints, I guess if you want to call it complaints, we've gotten very little with his shitty as we can talk in his I was going to say unbiased. God, that's the opposite. As biased as we can be, and it's just straightforward. It's like, fuck it. If people want to do this, we get very few complaints. But it shocked me, But the people that have complained, they just make me laugh, because I'm
Who
like,
complains? Really? What would they say?
Every once in a while, we'll get these, and it's usually not the podcast, because I don't think somebody who really wants to bitch about us isn't going to they're not going to take an hour and a half out of their day or an hour out of their day to listen to figure it out. They're just going to look at random posts, which quite honestly, majority of it is me, and it's my fault, and I'll take full responsibility for it. But then on top of it, I'm like, fuck you. If you don't like it, go someplace else. But I don't say that because I even hate to say this, we need Instagram, we need Facebook, and we need those to do what we're trying to do. And that's part of that, again, that control thing that I have. I don't want to need these things, but I know we do, but every once in a while, people are just like, what you just said, that wasn't even motivation at all. I can't believe you laughed at me or whatever. And I'm thinking they're laughing at some meme that I posted, or I'll post something and somebody said, oh, so you're shaming people with a lisp. I was a Mike Tyson post.
Mm-hmm.
And he said it was the Nike swish, the just do it, but with a lisp. I had two people literally in a row basically tell me I was shaming people with a lisp. So I just deleted the post because I'm like, again, in my head, I'm like, fuck you if you can't take a joke. Mike Tyson makes fun of himself. Why can't I?
Yeah.
But then, again, there's people I know that don't agree with our philosophy. We're straight up AA people.
Yeah.
And we were born that way and grown up that well. Mike had other dealings in California prior to this, but
I didn't stay sober.
Right. But for the 13 years and he and I were 4 days apart in our sobriety for the exact amount of time, exact places, exact framework, we're AA people. But if you want to do something else and somebody else wants to do something else, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
What do you say, Mike, all the time? It's not about what they do, but you talk about being a good person, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, well, I mean, all the time. Act as if is a huge thing for me. I mean, my thoughts are still all kinds of fucked up. I have all incredibly awful thoughts in my head, but I don't act that way anymore. And that's the thing. Again, working that muscle, being a good person, smiling at someone when I don't want to, holding a door for someone when I don't want to, doing the next right thing if I don't want to. It doesn't matter what I want. It matters what is right today. And that's all that matters. Again, my thoughts are fucked up, but my actions aren't today. And that's a huge part of why I stay sober, and a fucked up action is to pick up a drink or a drug today, because it's not, yes, it will make me feel good. A friend of mine in his lead says, my biggest problem is I will scar you for life so I can feel good for 20 minutes. That's a fucked up way to live, man. That is a fucked up way to live. And it was absolutely true for me. I will hurt you. I will make you suffer so I can feel good for 20 minutes. Look, no, that's wrong.
No,
it's just not. Yeah. So I don't today.
And Mike always says too, when we've talked to two different people and talked about different groups, because quite honestly, before I started listening to podcasts, and this was like a year and a few months ago, I had no idea what gray area drinking was. I didn't know what sober curious was. I didn't know what there's a couple other ones that out there, whatever those terms were. I'm like, what are these things?
I think that That's
I had
been
nothing
one of the
against it.
most interesting. Yeah, it's been one of the more interesting things for me to learn. I became a recovery coach in the summer, and yeah, the idea that like the harm reduction idea, because I'm so
Yeah.
hardcore, like I am hardcore abstinence, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
like I'm a gold star, like gold star alcoholic. I've never had one drink ever.
Right.
And so yeah, no, that is a thing. It's something I'm trying to like navigate too with the groups, like having maybe a separate sober curious group, because I don't want to be in a group where someone's like, well, last night I had 2 glasses of wine, and then, today I think I'm not going to have any, and then tomorrow I think I'm going to this, a dinner and I'll have one. And that's not right. Like, I don't need to be in that group.
Yeah. Well,
But
yeah. I don't understand that.
Right.
I appreciate it. I don't understand it, but I appreciate it.
I don't even appreciate it. If I'm drinking, I'm putting down half a handle of vodka.
Yeah.
I'm drinking until I pass out.
I mean, I appreciate their restraint, but I think that.
Yeah, well, I don't understand it though. I don't have it. Right.
I don't have it either. Yeah, but I think it is interesting that's become like so prevalent now. The idea of like, yeah, I want to cut down, but I do think that is a very that should be a separate sort of conversation, because they can't go to AA, right?
Right.
So they have to go somewhere. But yeah, it's an interesting one.
Well, and there are people out there that alcohol free was the other one that I was thinking of, and and it is just literally yesterday it came up, and there's an individual, and I've never named this person openly, and I have no plans to do it, because I know this individual is doing a lot of good work. I know for a fact that this person is doing great work for a lot of people, but usually it's usually every 3-4 months, because this is probably 3rd time that I brought it up. This individual wants to get rid of the word alcoholic, and the only reason I follow the person anymore is just this is stupid. I follow this because it pisses me off. And I'm like, sometimes I just wait. I'm like, what stupid thing are you going to say next? But I don't respond to anything ever, except for the alcoholic thing. And the conversation's always about, it's time for us to make a change. It's time for us to rid the world of the world alcoholic. Who's with me type of thing. And every time I respond the same way, I'm like, cool. I said, here's the deal. I said, I've responded a few times, and I say the same thing again. If people want to, I don't know, make up new words, expand their vocabulary, choose different paths to be sober, I don't care. Do what you got to do, man. But here's the thing. I'm an alcoholic, and don't try to take away my word. And there's no reason in the world to try to take away a word that means something literally to millions of people. It is how I identify. It's the backbone of, I need to know what I am in order for me to know what to do about it, but that's me, I want the word. I don't care if somebody else calls themselves sober curious, alcohol free. I don't care. I don't care one way or the other what people call themselves. And that's what Mike always says too. He's like, if you're out there doing whatever you got to do to stay sober and you're not hurting any people, cool. He says, if you're out there hurting people, he said, then I got a problem with it.
Right.
So that's what he says that all the time. He just be a better person.
I try to keep it really simple. If something is making you a better person and making you make your corner of the world a better place, I'm all for it. I don't care what you call it. I don't care what it is. If something is making you a worse person, making you and fucking up the world around you, I am against it 100%. I don't care if it's religion. I don't care if it's politics. I don't care what it is. If it's making you better, I'm for it. If it's making you worse, I'm against it.
Yeah, I mean, I think identifying myself as an alcoholic it's just super healthy for me. Like, I need
right.
That.
Yeah.
I need it. And I remember being in like recovery coaching class, and they're like, oh, we don't say relapse. We say return to use now. And it's like, I was like, I need it. Like, no, I'm not just, if I relapse, like, you're going to find me like in Vegas, like, you know, 2 days later and like not knowing what's going on. And so it's like, no, that's a relapse. I'm not returning to use. Like that's, you know, but it is interesting. I think you guys would be surprised that, so the people that do come to our meetings, a lot of them plan to drink again in their lifetime.
Sure.
And that, I think, is something I have to get used to and respect and say, yeah, okay, like, yeah, I want to be able to go to a wedding and have a glass of wine. And I have to be like, okay, yeah, okay.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, I would love it. Well, you know, as the big book says, you know, the great obsession is to be able to drink like a normal person. Yes, I would love that. That would be fantastic. I would love to be able to get high. I'd like to be able to shoot heroin like a normal person, but I can't.
And and that's the other thing they say in the big book is, you know, if you're not convinced that you're an alcoholic, and you can even change the words. If somebody is not convinced that they have, you know, a true issue, you know, with alcohol, and they want to try to control their drinking, the easiest way to figure out what the problem is to try it, you know. And if somebody goes out and they keep trying it and they're like, you know, again, I've used the example all the time, you know, if I hit my head against the wall, it's probably going to hurt, you know, and sooner or later I'll be like, well, I probably shouldn't do that anymore, you know, hopefully, you know, unless I smash my head open one time because I hit it too hard, you know. But that's the problem, you know.
But
so
I think there is a difference, right, between people that identify as an alcoholic and don't, and there may be a significant difference in the way they use too. I have a friend who was sober for a year and, you know, had a beer and was like, oh, I didn't like it. And
I don't know if I was going to say, I don't know if I would like it, but I'd still drink it because I'm like, even if it tastes this new alcohol that they have doesn't taste very good, but it's going to get me fucked up. So I think I'm going to drink it.
Right. This crack tastes like shit. I'm still smoking it.
But so, Sonia, I mean, I know we've gotten a little bit off on a tangent, but I think a good one. But I want to get back on. I don't want you. I'm thinking about your business. I don't want you to lose the opportunity of explaining to people. We've explained what you do in your groups like that, but again, maybe get the name out there where people can find you. Let's get that information at least out to people. And any information that you want for me to put in like a description, you can email that to me right when we're done, and I'll put that in the description too. I just want people to be able to find you that are listening to this, you know?
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty easy. Just join EverBlume.com, and then there's, you know, a ton of places to sign up and fill out a survey about yourself and, you know, try out a free meeting. I think it's like, it takes the risk out of it by just come and try it out. You know, like there's no pressure, no commitment, just try out a meeting and see if it works for you. And so, yeah, join everblume.com.
And you're also on Instagram, and I will have you, if anyone is listening to this and follows us, and in the promotions I've done all week, I've tagged you in each one of those. I'll do the same thing, you know, so people can find your Instagram or find you through Instagram also. But like I said, I didn't want to take away from, because I know you mentioned the company name way in the beginning, and we always want to make sure, because we've done that before, right, Mike? I know that we were halfway through the episode, I think, with Gio, before we even mentioned the name of his book, or Travis, one of the two, were like, hey, let's talk about because we were having such a great conversation. And it's like, hey, let's mention your book here, because you want to sell some books, right? Yeah, the same thing. It's like, we're promoting your company. Let's talk about your company for a minute.
I mean, I really just want to talk to you guys, but thank you.
No, and we look at this in a twofold purpose. I mean, it's we understand what people are wanting to do, and you know, we never try to, first of all, we never shy away from it. And, you know, I know I've said it openly. I probably said it to you in the emails that we went back and forth on, you know, tell us about your story. But we want you to be able to talk about what you're doing. And, you know, there's a point, you know, using whether it's social media or podcasts or anything that we're doing, you know, we're all trying to get out there and do something. And the more people that know about it, the better it is for everyone. So.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's nice for me to be able to kind of get the point across that this was something I created, something I needed. Right. It wasn't like, it's something I didn't believe was out there. And so I really made it almost for myself, and I really hope it helps other people. I think it does.
Yeah, well, and I think that's God, I thought there was somebody else that I was talking to at one point. I can't remember if it was someone we had talked to, but the same thing. I think some of the greatest, ideas out there, whether it's recovery or otherwise, basically filling a void is what you're doing. Is it's like what wasn't there for me at the time that I needed it, and what can I do to help to help fill that void, hopefully for other people. So which is great.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
Yeah, not a problem. And I wasn't trying to cut you off completely. I just wanted to get that in there because now my follow-up question was, what else do you want to talk about? Because again, this is your time, but I wanted to get your company information in there too. So what else? What else you got going on? What's next in the business, or what else do you want to talk about?
I mean, I am just like going to keep going. Like, I think that I just want to really get the meetings like to the point where people are feeling like they are comfortable talking, getting everyone, sharing. And so, yeah, I've just been working on the format. I do some one-on-one coaching, which is great. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have that much else to talk about unless you want to go through my divorce. But no, I think
I've had two and Mike's had one, so I think we're all skilled
again.
up.
Like I said in the beginning, we know how to fuck shit up. We're interested in the solution.
Actually, this is something really interesting that came out of the divorce, which is I had to come to terms with the fact that the marriage fell apart because I got sober. And that's something I worry, what kind of message does that send to people who are thinking about getting sober? But you do change, right? And
sure.
And if someone is not coming on that journey with you, I think that there will be some friction. And so that was a hard thing. I wrote a lot, like when I was trying to figure that out, when it hit me, because all the things he said were things that happened when I got sober. And so, yeah, I mean, I wasn't the same person that I was when we met. I was 23. I was like life of the party. And now, yeah, I'm an introvert. And so I think, yeah,
that's not uncommon. We were talking about our uniqueness, and when you were telling me that in the beginning, I mean, that is absolutely not uncommon. When people get sober, quite often the relationship falls apart because you're a different person, and a lot of times the other person, for whatever reason, doesn't want to be around this new sober person, this better person, whether it's they had control before and now they don't, or they, just the things shift for whatever reason. And it's not uncommon for relationships to fall apart. It's we're not unique. We're not different. We aren't. It happens to a lot of people, and it's okay. That's it's good for you too, because clearly, that's the person that you were with was the person that you wanted to be with when you were fucked up. So that's all right. That's all right. Your priorities have changed, and even if you didn't realize it in the beginning, and maybe not even yet, you don't realize that that's the case. That this is not the person you need to be with anymore because you are a different person, a better person. So it's all right, man.
That person also, right? It's like, wait, you wanted to be with the fucked up version of me.
Right.
Too.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It's like,
right.
There's that. But I think that, it's just, I think that when it hit me was, I was in a writing group when this was going on, and they said, why don't you write about how your drinking impacted your marriage? And I was like, my drinking didn't impact my marriage. When I stopped drinking, it impacted my marriage. And that's when I was like, marriage was great before.
Right.
And it's a tough thing though to accept. I feel like it is.
Sure.
Like, I'd worked so hard at it. I was so proud of being sober, and then realizing that this huge other unintended consequence of getting sober. And I worried. I'm like, what does this say to people who get sober? Like, your husband's going to leave? Like, what does this say? I really think it happened for a reason. I hope it's this, that I can help other people. Like, I really, really have to make something positive out of it.
Well, that's the thing. We were told over and over again, all that shitty behavior that you had in your past, is not worthless. It's worthwhile if you use it to help somebody else get over their shitty behavior. That's just it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just like anything else, you know, the people and, you know, like the people that we followed, you know, the path to get to where we are. And there's people that, whether we know it or not, you know, that have followed the path that we've walked through, you know, and that's the thing. The reason that it's so easy to talk to somebody like you, again, like we were talking about at the beginning, whether background, age, race, color, anything like that, is because both of those individuals have been in the same circumstance. You know, I don't know how to talk to somebody who is dealing with cancer. I don't have cancer, you know. I don't know how to deal with somebody who's got, you know, some traumatic past, because I didn't have that. I wouldn't be able to sit in a recovery group talking about past trauma. It would go right over my head because I don't have it. Mike and I have talked about that. We don't have those trauma-based things, you know. But
good for you too.
But there's people out there that do. And we were on two different podcasts where we were guests on the podcast, and that was and I knew that was a big part of their format. They would always talk about that. Every other episode that I had listened to, they asked the question, so I knew it was going to come up with Mike and I. They asked both of us, and both of us were like, we have none. We just talked about it on one of our episodes. And both of the hosts, who are very cool, but they're like, really? Like, no, you know, we can't, there's nothing that we can pinpoint it to say that this happened to me and this is why I drank. Mike, what's your typical answer? Why did you drink?
Because I want to feel good all the fucking time.
And these are these simple answers. But again, and I'm grateful that I didn't have to go through that. But I'll be honest with somebody. If somebody comes to me and like, I've got a trauma-based past, can you help me out? Can you talk to me? I'd be like, I can talk to you about the recovery part. I can't put myself, nor am I going to try. I think I would harm you by trying to help you. You know, because I don't know where you're coming from. I have no idea how to put my arm around you mentally and say, here's what you do. I can't walk you out of that hole, out of those woods, because I've never been there before. But somebody else, like, straight up alcoholic, drug addict, come here. I got this. Come here.
Right.
I mean, I sort of feel like the point, right, of recovery, though, is forward looking. Like, even if there's like past trauma, I feel like I like to focus on just like, okay, so what are we going to do? Like, what's the plan to get to the next? Yeah. I don't really, like, I wouldn't start a childhood trauma group. Like, that's not, well, I mean, I could.
Yeah, I mean, the whole point of recovery is living in the moment. Am I being traumatized right now? No. Well, then shut the fuck up. Yes, awful things happened in the past. And I mean, you know, trauma is, I didn't have the greatest childhood and blah, 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 blah. But none of that is happening right now. None of it. Right now, I'm sitting here having a wonderful conversation with you two people. That's what's happening right now. That's what I need to focus on. 10 minutes from now, I don't know what's going to happen. I might have a fucking heart attack and drop dead. I don't know. You know,
I'm not cleaning out your house.
What's that?
I said, I'm not cleaning out your house.
No, you're not. Right. What's right now, right here, live in the moment. You know, that's the whole thing about getting loaded. I was either living in the past or living in the future. I wasn't living in the moment. I was trying to manufacture a moment. Nah, right now is the moment, and I'm living in it, and it's easier. It really is easier.
Yeah.
You know, it's
I mean, I don't see
the way I started.
Yeah, I mean, if you say like, hey, I have childhood trauma, how do I get sober? It's like, well, not by figuring that out right now. Like,
right. No, right. Yeah, you can figure that out later. First of all, you got to get sober so you can think. Right.
Yeah, like it's the same path. I feel like regardless of what brought you to it, I think the path forward is just like a very, like, you're not going to drink today. You're not going to drink tomorrow. And
you're not going to drink today.
You're not going to drink today.
Right.
And so and then
when tomorrow comes, it'll be today again. And so don't drink today. Again. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Simple.
Yeah, I mean, like, therapists don't get you sober, right? Like, I guess that's sort of what we're talking about. Like, it's we're talking about, like, it's not, that is not the point of therapy, is to, like, get you sober.
Right. Well, there's a lot of people that, like Mike just said, get sober first, and then you have to actually be able to think and have the mental capacity to if you need to dig a little bit deeper into whatever it is, and that's why they always tell people that both of us, we know a lot of sober, really bad sober assholes. We can both be assholes ourselves, but we know some severely a-hole-ish people that are sober because they never took care of, alcohol is but a symptom. It's just the surface part. Right. Get rid of the booze, and then you start taking care of, figuring out how to become a better person.
Yep.
Which, again, if you got past stuff to deal with, then deal with it. But like you said, I do like that forward thinking, because Mike and I are like that too. That's the whole point of what, like you said, we get okay, this is where I came from, but what am I doing now? How can I help people by showing them what we do now? So.
Yeah, I feel like the process is like non-linear enough. Right? It's like with the divorce too. It's like, I have great days and I have bad days. Like, I am not going to go back. Like I'm already it's already wavy. So going backwards doesn't help at all.
Yeah. No sense in creating false waves, right?
No sense.
Well, all right. So what else? Anything that you want to wrap up with? I think we talked about a lot of great stuff. We got your company name and stuff out there. And I've got your, is that good enough for me to put your Instagram tag on there? Or do you want me to do you want to shoot me any other information in an email? If you want to, I'll put that in the description. And
yeah, you have it. Like, even your Instagram descriptions are great. I was looking at them today. So yeah, you have all my info. Yeah, for sure. It looks great. And this was really fun. We talked about a lot.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, again, one of the things that we've had some people come on that they're a little bit nervous here and there, but it's just our point of this, and it's just to get on, have a conversation, and kind of go from there. But yes, we want to make sure that we try to do some good, but also talk about what people want to talk about, again, with your business. That's why I wanted to get that out there too. So, but seriously, it's been you're right. We talked about a lot. It's been fun. So now, have you and we'll get back to the beginning of this, speaking of swearing, have you listened to a full end of our episode or no?
Oh, I don't know if I've listened to a full I don't know what full end means.
Well, well, you're about to find out. So it sounds like the answer is no, because Mike always closes out our episode. But first of all, Sonia, thank you very much. And so too, I'll put I always put the episodes together on Friday night when we're done. It should be live Eastern time, no later than noon tomorrow. So the episode will be up and running. I'll basically I post on Instagram, so you'll see it. You'll get tagged down there. But it's been great. So we appreciate it. So yes, Mike is the one that leads us out. So you and I can sit back, and he leads us out.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening to another episode of Sober Not Mature. We want to thank Sonia for coming on. It was a great conversation. And as always, be kind to each other, be good to each other, do something nice for somebody else this week. And as always, please, 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 please fuck off. Then keep fucking off. Keep fucking off until you get to a gate with a sign on it saying you cannot fuck off past here. Climb over the gate, dream the impossible dream, and keep fucking off forever.
So I'm guessing you haven't heard that before?
No, I have. Yep.
Oh, you have? Okay, good. So it was
the first half of it. I heard the first half of it before.
Yeah, some people we have to kind of explain that, but it's just, I don't know, it's fun. We have a lot of fun with that, but that's how we end every episode, and I love it. Mike loves it. It was given to us by our sister, but it's always a fitting end to our episode, I think. But yeah, so seriously, Sonia, thank you very much. Mike, I love you, brother. I will talk to you soon.
Too.
And everyone have a great evening.
Thanks, guys.
All right, bye.
Bye.
As always, thank you for listening to another episode of Sober Not Mature. To access all of our content and interact with us, please visit our website, SoberNotMature.com. Thank you again for listening, and we will talk to you soon.